Things have calmed down now. But yesterday, honestly, was very scary. It was scary. It's not something that you expect to happen at a football venue. Around 10 minutes to the game, we, the Ghanaian journalists in the media section, were a bit scattered because of how the things went. So we managed to come together. We're about 5 of us, myself and a colleague from Joy, 2 guys from Asempa FM. So we were 5 sitting in one particular corner, 10 minutes to the game. And the way we were looking at things, we could just feel that, and we could just sense that Ghana would qualify. We really didn't see a goal coming in for Nigeria. So then we began to sing, because where we were, it was a group of journalists who we were very familiar with. So we began to sing, and we were all laughing, smiling, and we were singing songs, we were happy. And then the final whistle goes, and then we are filming our players, we are happy, we're all singing. And all of a sudden, we see on the pitch that fans are climbing over the barricades and have invaded the pitch. But at that particular point in time, the first 2 we saw were running towards Nigerian players. So we didn't really think the Ghanaian players were in danger.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they started running towards the Ghanaian players. So it was at that point where one of the technical officials signaled for the players to quickly get into the dressing room. So first they were walking briskly, and then all of a sudden the fans started chasing them. So now they had to literally run into the tunnel.
Yeah.
And then as they made their way into the tunnel, a couple of fans also managed to enter the tunnel. We don't know if they were able to enter the dressing room with them, but from reports that we've gathered, they weren't. They were stopped at the gate. But it was complete chaos. And as that was happening and we were watching it, more fans were coming on the pitch. And then we started hearing people asking where the Ghanaians are, like where the guys who were singing. So it was at that point where our senior colleague at BBC, Oluwashina, he asked us to be quiet, he asked us to sit down, and then he formed sort of a wall around us so that people would not see us, and then started distracting a lot of people. But then there were some murmurs in the crowd around the media area where people were like, they saw some Ghanaians at the top there. So that's, at that point, look, it was very, very scary, because the fans had invaded the media section. And that was also because of the fact that about an hour to the game, the gates were open for free. So the 60,000 you saw in the stadium, it's not like those guys paid tickets to come, no. And there were a lot of free tickets shared out. And at a point, as I said, an hour to the game, a lot of fans were allowed into the stadium. So without tickets, without accreditation, any space that they could find, they invaded that area. That's how we had a lot of fans inside the media section. So then we were quickly ushered through some back route.
Yeah. And
then we managed to enter a room very close to the media center. But we couldn't make our way through the hallway to the media center because fans were in the hallway. So people were trying to, fellow journalists, Nigerian journalists we knew were trying to clear out the place. And we're telling people there are no Ghanaians around. And at that point, we were very, very scared for the Ghanaian fans who were celebrating with the Black Stars. But we heard that security were able to guide them through the dressing room or through the tunnel into the dressing room. So the Ghanaian fans didn't go outside in the stadium into where the crowd were. They actually went on the pitch through the tunnel into the dressing room with the players just to be safe. And so when we heard that report, it was about 30 minutes to an hour. And then we were told that the hallway was clear, so we're now able to enter the media center, where we met up with a couple of other Ghanaian journalists who were also visibly shaken. Look, we were very scared, but things calmed down, thankfully, and we were able to clear up the crowd. And by the time we were leaving the stadium at around 10:30, 11 p.m., things were calm. By that time, let me tell you what happened. I had to give my Citi jacket to a TV3 colleague because his jacket had red, gold, green on it. And he wasn't feeling safe. He was very scared. So I had to give my Citi jacket to him. And thankfully, I was wearing a shirt that they had no Ghanaian colors on it. Fentu Tari was wearing his Black Stars jersey over, in fact, inside a shirt. So he quickly had to button up and cover it because had they seen that you were anything that was indicating you were Team Ghana, we don't know what would have happened.
Wow.
This is terrible. Now, okay, in all that you've said, we haven't heard much about the security detail at the venue. And looking at the images we've seen so far, we don't see much security presence. What was the security situation?
Yeah, that's what I didn't understand because a day before the game, that was on Monday night, there was this recce where there were lots of security officers. We've been discussing it amongst journalists where we're like, in Ghana, yes, you see policemen, a lot of them, immigration, military guys, but you don't see them holding guns. But this time, every single one of them was holding guns, and they were scattered around. There were a lot. But I feel the problem came with the way they allowed fans to enter the stadium. And usually these things are sectioned. So you have the popular stand where you have, excuse me to say, more rowdy people at that section. You have the VIP. You don't expect things like that to happen at the VIP section or the media section. But guys like that they invaded everywhere. They just sat anywhere they liked. Then it was a bit problematic because the security were around. But the fact of the matter is that, first of all, I don't think they expected fans to jump over the barricades and invade the pitch. So you have stewards inside the pitch. You don't have security guys inside the pitch. It's usually stewards who are lined up around the pitch just to make sure one or two fans don't jump into the stadium. That's how it's usually done. And then the security guys are the entrances into the stands. So the action happened in front of the security guys. It's not like they were able to be there to stop them. They were behind the fans who were climbing. It's the stewards who were at the front. And the stewards are not trained to be able to handle this sort of disturbances. If it was one or two, you would expect that, yes, they would have been able to do something. But the numbers were just shared. Look, it was absolute craziness, and nobody expected that. They overturned the technical areas. Look, it was scary. Tear gas had to come in, and it was at that point where we started fearing a stampede because they shot one very close to the stands, and we just started getting that indication that maybe they could have fired one into the crowd, which would have caused something else. But thankfully, they didn't do that, and they were able to quickly disperse the crowd. But in saying this, you also have to give the security personnel a bit of credit because the way things were going, it is a miracle that the stampede didn't happen. Because yes, there were some people who were misbehaving who went on the field, but there were some people who were also genuinely in the crowd very scared, and those guys began to panic. But when we went down into the room by the media center, we were told that the security guys came and they were able to usher people out, calm down, nothing will happen, and they were able to usher them out. So that's basically the reason why when we were coming out of the stadium, everything was calm. Even in the town, they had managed to disperse a lot of people out of the stadium because it was just an hour and a half after the match when we left. And usually, at least in Ghana, people will still be outside, but the roads were empty around the stadium. It was only cleaners and the workers who were allowed to work, but everybody else was dispersed from the area around the stadium.
And we heard about the unfortunate death of the Zambian doctor who got caught up in the melee. What was your perspective on that? I mean, while you guys were trying to take shelter, this guy was apparently beaten and trampled on.
Yeah, when we heard the news, we were surprised. Apparently, it happened in front of the Ghanaian dressing room. He fainted. And then we are gathering reports that the emergency services didn't come in time. And that's also because of the trouble that was going on. They found difficulty in accessing that area quickly enough. And unfortunately, that happened. But you see, when we were sitting in the media room, we were scared for ourselves. We didn't necessarily think people outside Ghanaians will be in danger. We didn't think something like that would have happened inside the dressing room or inside the inner perimeter. We thought that maybe if anything happened, they would have been in the crowd or in the stands or something like that. So to finally have everything calm down and then realize the fact that something like this happened, we were actually very shocked. And that's when we realized that we're really, really lucky and that nothing bad happened to any of us.
So terrible. Okay.
Wow. Well, I mean, thank you for the update. What are your plans for the rest of the day?
I'm coming back to Ghana today. I've never wanted to be home as much as I do right now. In fact, yesterday I realized how much I love my country, and the E-levy had passed. I expected myself to be angry, but look, I just wanted to run to Nanado and give him a big hug because I really miss Ghana. I really miss Ghana.
Man.
Daniel Korateng.
That's kind of cute,
Danny K. Look, it's great to see you.
Who was your man of the match?
Jojo Olakot.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Outstanding.
I agree.
Jojo Olakot.
Definitely.
Absolutely outstanding.
Mine the same.
The sort of criticism he's got. And you see, when they arrived at the airport, I told him all the best. He looked at me with some look and he shook his head. And then it was Mohamed Kudus, who was like, you people are in your trouble. He passed the comment and said, you people are in your trouble. So you can tell that the things people say, it actually gets to the players. They hear these things and it gets to them. So for him to be able to put that all behind him and produce such a performance, because you see, whether you like it or not, if you go down to the fine margins, he's the reason Ghana is going to Qatar.
Yeah.
That save he made in the second half, point blank range.
Yeah.
It is a sort of save that when the best goalkeepers in the world do, we see highlight reels, everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
And for somebody who has received such criticism, vilification, I think a lot of people have eaten humble pie because he was superb, not just in Abuja, but in Kumasi also. He made that save in the second half against Moses Simon. And that ensured that we ended that game goalless. And then again yesterday, look, the entire stadium stood up. When the cross came in, everybody stood up. And I was like, goodness. And I was telling God, if we were going to let the Nigerians score, why at this time? And all of a sudden, the hand of Olakot came out of nowhere and saved the ball. So it was those sort of moments that, look, yes, you guys watched it on TV, but when you watch it live, it's unreal. And we owe him a big thank you because he was sensational yesterday.
He rose to the occasion. But what was up with Jordan Ayew? He just looked so out of sorts. What was going on?
Honestly speaking, I have a completely different take. You see, I think Jordan was very important to what we did yesterday. He wasn't the most exciting player to watch. But if you noticed, per the statistic, he drew the most fouls. Anytime there was pressure on Ghana, he was the first outlet. They gave the ball to him. He drew a couple of defenders, and then he caused the foul, and everybody was able to calm down. You see, and if you're in the stadium, you see his antics. He was telling the guys, just relax, give the ball to me, relax. There was no need to panic. And you see, if you didn't have somebody like that at that moment, and we saw it, not to criticize anybody, but anytime the ball went to the other side of the pitch with Fatal Isahaku, the youngster, he was always panicking. When he had the ball, he attempted to go past 2-3 players, and then you lose it, and pressure comes back on the Black Stars. So it's those fine margins, and it just shows you the experience that Jordan has. But unfortunately, he picked up an injury just before the first half ended. And that's another thing you need to give him credit for, because they were going to sub him before halftime. But he insisted he remains on the pitch. He said he could continue just to the end of the game. And you also have to credit that, because that also fed into the tactical change at the beginning of the second half. Maybe had they sacked him just before the first half, Ghana wouldn't have gone into the shape that we had gone into, and anything could have happened. And so credit to him. For me, he played a very key part in that first half. I always say it, you always play according to a plan. If your role is to score goals, yes, you get a lot of plaudits. Nobody really gives a lot of plaudits to the guy who is making fouls, hacking down players, but he's been asked to do a job. But that is not nice to see. So people don't really give that a lot of credit. So I think we should take it easy on Jordan. Yes, he's by profile, he's a striker. He's supposed to be scoring goals, but he doesn't play as a striker for the Black Stars. So we need to understand the role he's been given and then apply our wisdom to it when we are judging him and based on his performance on the pitch.
Thank you for that perspective.
Your perspective is incredible. I love it. I've never thought of it like that. But Daniel, thank you very much for your insights this morning. Safe trip. On your way back to Accra.